In this episode of Mighty Car Mods, we're going to get the mechanics of the Mini finished, which means we can turn the key and, all going well, have the car ready to throw on to tune on the dyno.
We are back and welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods, proudly supported by Just Car Insurance. Now we've got loads of mad things to do today, including our mad cooling system. How are you, Martin?
I'm good.
How's Supergramps going?
It's pretty good. I'm a bit excited about your Mini though.
I am as well.
Have I mentioned that I'm excited to hear it yet?
Yes, you have. Okay. I think every single episode. Now, Miles, what is the plan today, my friend?
It's all about cooling today.
Yes.
We're going to put our radiator in.
Yep.
Make all our hoses work for our cooling system. And we're going to run our little mini intercooler.
Look how small it is. Now small. This here, its whole purpose is just to cool down the supercharger.
Yep.
That's right, and that's going to be its own system. Its own thing.
Yep.
Now, here's the question we don't know the answer to yet. Which one of these hoses fits on here?
And you got no idea which area code it's from, eh?
No, oh dude, come on. There's 3 hoses and there's 3 of us, so I was thinking maybe we could have a little bet. And each guess which hose we think is going to fit. I'm going to go with this one that has the longest dongle is my bet. That's what I'm betting on. You?
Yeah, I'll go with this one.
With that one?
Yeah.
And Marty, you're going with that one?
Sounds the best.
Keep going.
With that awkwardness thankfully over, the first step is to jack up the car. Today's plan is to have the car completely ready to run on the dyno, which means there's going to be heaps that we have to do, but we are not going home until the car starts. Because we're using so many different types of hoses and sizes, we've had to get a whole selection of quality brass fittings so that everything will match up.
So evaporative control, it goes into this one.
Yep.
So I've got this fitting for that. We'll
cool.
put a new bit of hose on that, I think, because it's a bit hard and crusty.
Yep.
And then that adapts into that one.
Do we need to replace this anyway for ethanol, or not as much for the breather?
No, not for the breather. I mean, it'll have an amount of liquid in it, but not enough that it'll cause a problem.
Yep, that's what she said.
That's an adapter to go from our 1/2-inch crankcase breather up to our throttle body, which has got a 5/8.
Okay.
So that'll adapt that.
Yep.
And then we need to fit our idle control motor, and we're just going to put that little filter on the end of that, so we don't need to plumb it back in.
Yeah, cool.
So it'll be fine.
Great. All right, so for now then, we're going to check the timing before we do anything else. And then from there, work out the plumbing for the radiator, because that's kind of the big stuff done.
Yep.
And then focus on what's happening up here.
Stuff. Yep.
Awesome, man. Sounds like a plan.
This little engine has come so far, and the engine bay is starting to look like a proper engine bay. The supercharger is on, our extractors are on, the exhaust is on, the new throttle body and multi-point injection system have been installed, and our fuel pressure regulator looks like something out of a time machine. Our next job is to check the timing and make sure that the relationship between the position of the piston and the firing of the spark plug is all good to go. Somewhat amazingly, our timing is perfect and no adjustment is necessary. So now we can plumb up the rest of our hoses that of course are again in places that are absolutely impossible to access unless your fingers are made out of noodles. While Miles is doing that, I'm going to sort out the throttle cable.
Because we've changed the location of the throttle body, you can see here that our throttle cable is actually too long. So what we're going to do about that is we're going to chop it. You'll see here this has kind of got a cable end on it that's kind of melted or stuck on there from the factory. What we're going to do is going to chop it here, and then we've got this little cable end. You see these on motocross bikes and all sorts of different things. So this is a cable end, I guess an artificial cable end because it's something that we're adding later. So what we're going to do is we're going to install this down in here like this. They come in various different sizes, but that is a perfect fit. Then we're going to feed this cable down through it, chop it on the end, then tighten that up, and that is how we're going to have adjustment of our mad throttle cable. Now down here, is where you actually adjust the throttle cable. We're going to leave this around halfway up here, so we still have some adjustment up and down if we need it. But for now, this is about to get chopped. Oh, yes.
With the throttle cable successfully modified, we can now move on to installing our aftermarket radiator. The shroud goes on first, and then the radiator core slides right down between the two fans. We're modifying our shroud slightly so that we've got better fitment of the aftermarket radiator.
So with a few bleeding knuckles, we finally got this radiator in. Now we're pulling it out again because we forgot this. This is kind of like a little, what do you call this? A cold air intake, a duct. It's a quack that goes over here. Now what it does is it basically goes around this radiator and seals it off like this. So yes, it's like a cold air duct.
Do you know what that's for?
Yes.
So your radiator doesn't get a quack in it. You can't take the pressure.
What's that?
Better put a cap on it.
Oh wow. They're not getting better. Usually people improve with time, Martin.
Meanwhile, Miles is finishing the last of the wiring under the car for the oxygen sensor, and always remember, cable ties are your friends. Okay, so that is the last of our wiring, so now we can fill the cooling system with coolant, but first we've got to get the lower radiator hose on, which is always easier said than done when you're working on a Mini.
So we're back to radiator hoses again, which, as we'd said a couple of times, it is a two-person job. One person to go through this little access hole to hold the hose clamp in place, and someone else with a very long screwdriver to actually do it up. How you do this with one person, and if you are a Mini owner and you do it by yourself, then full credit to you because you are an absolute legend. We've got a radiator, ladies and gentlemen.
We do.
And to go in it, some mad Toyota coolant. It's so exciting, which means it's almost time for skids and boost. Pretty awesome. Marty, I do believe you made a mad little piece of pipe. Look at that. You, sir, are a legend. Look at that.
Cooling can be an issue for some supercharged cars, including Minis, so we're making sure that we do the system right so that we don't have to worry about it again. This is particularly important in Australia, where cars can get hot enough to cook a platypus. We've got our hands on some quality hose, and if it's good enough for a Holden Commodore, then it is good enough for me. Hello, Australia. The system is all done, so we're ready to fill it up.
So we're opening the heater tap because that is something that we did have to replace when we changed the heater matrix, because that's actually opening up the circulation, which is going to allow the coolant to run down through here, through these pipes and through the heater matrix. If we leave that closed, then that's basically just going to be a vacuum of air, and we're not going to be able to put the coolant in properly, and it's not going to bleed properly, and we're going to end up with a big air pocket. Pretty exciting, isn't it?
Oh, what a feeling.
500 mils more. Just gonna make sure there's none on the ground. No, we're good so far. It's a big radiator, isn't it?
It is.
Compared to what was in there before.
So yeah, so you can probably put a little bit more coolant in than what you did on the old one because it's got a bit more volume now.
From Queensland, we say coolant.
Coolant.
There it is. That's going to be my approximate guesstimation.
Okay.
You can overrule that. I'll leave this here for when you do.
Okay.
Next up, we're pouring in water to make a 50-50 ratio with our mad Toyota coolant.
It's a good idea when you're filling the radiator up that if you can have some sort of iron funnel or something that can go down inside and actually seal itself on there. That way you can fill it right up with water and you actually get a little bit of head pressure over the top of the radiator. So it allows it to help push all the air out as it's going through.
You can buy like special funnel buckets, can't you, that you can do this with? But that's a bit of a bonus that funnel's just happening in there.
Yeah, you can buy.
How are we going to, considering the car doesn't start yet, which means we're not going to be able to get it up to temperature, how do we open the thermostat to get this through the whole system, or is that just not going to be possible?
Not going to be possible. What we'll basically do is try and push as much water through as we can until I can get it to come out of one of the heater hoses.
Yeah.
And then get it to come out the other side of the heater, so we've initially got 95% of the air out of the system.
Yep,
and then
okay.
once the car gets to a point of starting, we'll be able to bleed it okay.
Our cooling system is good to go. We're tying up our hoses to make sure they don't obstruct the supercharger pulley or the belts. And now we can get started on our unique supercharger cooling system. For this, we'll be using a computer fan, some beer bong hose, a brushless motor, and some cable ties. This is going to be a closed system used specifically to cool the supercharger. I found a Japanese paint stick under the back seat of the car, which is going to be really handy for covering up any holes that we've had to drill.
So our little water to air supercharger cooling system's pretty much done. There's not much space, as you can see. There's these clear hoses, which are
Martin, I just want to point out, as the fans did spot, it's a computer fan.
yeah, on a little
Run us through the system, Martin.
So that's like the kind of little system you'd find on a computer if you had a water-cooled computer, if you're like super nerdy and into that kind of stuff. That's basically the same thing. So even the tubing is similar tubing. It's not really meant for high heat, but pretty much it'll just shed off heat through this little water-to-air system. Works the same way as Miss Daisy's intercooling did pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's got a fan on the back of it that'll run at 12 volts and a little brushless pump that'll run at 12 volts, and we've made all these tubes and we're going to put some coolant in it. Different coloured coolant, so that if it leaks out, there's a different colour dripping on the ground that isn't Toyota red.
Yeah, that just means that we can help problem solve.
Yeah.
Because, we're running Toyota red coolant in there. If we run different coloured coolant in here, then if we see any drips, if they're both red, we're not going to know where the problem is, but different colours kind of helps us isolate any problems. But they are two discrete systems, they are separate. So that's pretty cool, Martin.
It is.
It's looking very cramped and awesome in there, isn't it?
And almost finished.
We're doing a water and coolant mix in a bottle so that we can get the ratios right, because we don't know what capacity is going to be in these hoses. And then we're going to pour it in and bleed the system.
I'm looping back our supercharger cooling hoses because our little radiator has sprung a leak. May or may not be from when I mounted it, but either way we can still make sure that the system works and run some coolant through it. And then we just jam another radiator in there.
While the grill was off, we decided just to go to the local computer shop and replace the radiator. And for now, we're just running this filter that came from the UK. The grill is going back on and it looks like we are done. What a crazy amount of work it's been, but I absolutely love it. And this Mini is going to be better than I ever could have imagined. A 1.3 litre multi-point injected supercharged classic Mini running ethanol. This is going to be awesome. The bonnet is going back on, and we've got to be really careful to make sure that it clears all the components that didn't used to be there. Next up, it's time to lower the car down and then turn the key and see if it actually starts. Alive! This is so freaking awesome. Now all we've got to do is get it to the dyno so that we can get it tuned, and then we can actually drive it.
Push me harder.
Next time on Mighty Car Mods.
Is he finished?
I think so.
No more, is there, Martin?
Your radiator might get Donald. Donalded.
Okay, what?
Donald your radiator.
That's a good one. Don't Donald your radiator. That's awful.
Yeah.
Remember that, like the soccer player, Donaldo?
Time to quit, bro.
Anyway, let's just put this on there.
Yeah, cool. Oh, Marty's still there.